Sudden Palestinian attitude. That's what former United States President Barack Obama has warned. Prime Minister Modi has also had a word with King Abdullah of Jordan, and they both discussed West Asia crisis. Meanwhile, third set of 8 trucks has passed through Rafah crossing. Rafah crossing was opened on Saturday for the people of Gaza, given that several hospitals in Gaza are running dangerously low on various, life-saving medicines and various other essential items. Palestinian terrorist group Hamas has claimed to have freed 2 more female hostages who were abducted from Israel on the 7th of October. That's when a deadly attack on southern Israel was carried out by the Islamist terror organization. Hamas's military wing released a statement stating that the 2 hostages were freed for compelling humanitarian reasons, quote unquote. This was mediated by Qatar and Egypt. That's what, in fact, Hamas has claimed. Now, although there has been no immediate confirmation from Israeli authorities, the Israeli media has reported that the 2 women were taken to Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. Now, this particular development comes after Hamas released 2 women, a mother and their daughter, both whom are US citizens. 2 American hostages were released by Hamas recently, a mother and a daughter. That marked the first known hostage release in the conflict with Israel. Judith and Natalie were in fact released by the Israeli authorities, by the Israeli forces at the border. Now here, what the latest that we're getting is that Hamas has claimed that it has released 2 more female hostages for compelling humanitarian reasons. The Israeli military has meanwhile confirmed that 222 people are currently being held as captives in Gaza. The Israeli forces, the Israeli defense forces are doing all in their might to ensure that all of these hostages are freed, even though Hamas has stated that every time it strikes a civilian area, it will, one of these hostages will in fact have to pay the price. Now here, the Palestinian terrorist group Hamas has claimed to have freed 2 more female hostages who were abducted from Israel on the 7th of October. Right on your screens, these 2 hostages have reportedly been freed by Hamas terrorist organization. Even though there is no immediate confirmation from the Israeli authorities, the Israeli media is reporting that the 2 women were taken to the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. More information on this is as of now awaited, but do remember that this development is coming after Hamas released 2 women, a mother and a daughter, both of whom are US citizens. Now, Israel conducted limited overnight raids against Palestinian militants in Gaza and launched airstrikes on fighters who it said were assembling to repulse any wider Israeli invasion. The Palestinian militant group Hamas said its fighters had hit back by engaging an armored Israeli force in southern Gaza and launched 2 attack drones at military posts, which Israel said were thwarted. Israel continuing continuing with its overnight raids against Palestinian terrorists in Gaza. In the latest, it launched airstrikes on fighters who it said were assembling to repulse any wider Israeli invasion. Remember, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has made his stance quite clear. He has said that this time Israel's goal is only to eradicate Hamas, nothing less than that. Israel continuing with its overnight raids against Palestinian terrorists in Gaza. It launched airstrikes on fighters who it claims were assembling to repulse any wider Israeli invasion. Do remember that Israel is also preparing for a ground invasion. It could happen any moment now, any day in fact.
צה"ל פשטו היום בשטח עזה, סמוך לגבול, כחלק ממאמץ להכנת המרחב לקראת תקיפה ובהמשך האיסוף של מידע בנוגע לנעדרים ולחטופים. משימה לאומית ראשונה במעלה. במהלך אחת הפשיטות נהרג לוחם צה"ל ו3 לוחמים נפצעו. הודעה נמסרה למשפחותיהם.
Now, the Palestinian terrorist group Hamas has stated that its fighters had hit back by engaging an armored Israeli force in southern Gaza and launched 2 attack drones at military posts, which Israel on the other side claims were thwarted. Now, Israel continued to pummel targets in Gaza as well as Hamas supporters in Lebanon and Syria. Medical sources in Gaza said more than 200 Palestinians were killed in Israeli airstrikes overnight. In Gaza's Khan Yunis, this funeral was held for 7 family members killed in an airstrike that hit their home at dawn. Israel began its unrelenting airstrikes on Gaza, one of the most densely populated places on earth, after Hamas gunmen breached the border on the 7th of October. Take a look.
Concerns over the risk of a wider Middle East conflict increased on Sunday as the US dispatched more military assets to the region. That's also as Israel continued to pummel targets in Gaza, as well as Hamas supporters in Lebanon and Syria. Medical sources in Gaza said more than 200 Palestinians were killed in Israeli airstrikes overnight. In Gaza's Khan Yunis, this funeral was held for 7 family members killed in an airstrike that hit their home at dawn. Israel began its unrelenting airstrikes on Gaza, one of the most densely populated places on earth, after Hamas gunmen breached the border on October the 7th. Their rampage killed 1,400 people, most of them civilians, and saw 212 hostages taken back to Gaza. The enclave's health ministry said on Saturday that Israel's retaliation had killed more than 4,000 Palestinians, including hundreds of children. Israel has amassed tanks and troops near Gaza's fenced border for a planned ground invasion and, according to an Israeli army spokesperson, intensified their bombardment overnight. Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said the deputy chief of Hamas's rocket force had been killed and that killing, quote, terrorists and seniors was their priority. In neighbouring Syria, where Hamas's main backer Iran has a presence, Israeli missiles hit Damascus and Aleppo international airports, according to Syrian state media. Israel also said it had bombed Iran-backed Hezbollah targets on Saturday. Hezbollah said 6 of its fighters were killed. Meanwhile, the US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has said Washington will send more military assets to the Middle East. It's a move in support of Israel and to strengthen the US defense posture in the region, following, quote, recent escalations by Iran and its proxy forces. Austin said a terminal high-altitude area defense system and additional Patriot defense missile system battalions would be sent, and more troops put on standby. The US has already deployed significant naval power to the Middle East in recent weeks.
Now, my colleague Manish Jha was at the Lebanese border. He gets us the latest on what's happening on that front. Let's listen in.
Right now, I am at Israel-Lebanon border, and this place is known as Kiryat Simona. This is one of the 42 places where the Israeli government has asked to vacate it. All the civilians who are staying here, who are living here, they have been asked to vacate it and go to some secure place because the Hezbollah is continuously attacking on these area. You can see the mountain, and top of the mountain, this is the Israeli post. From this location, continuously IDF attacking the opposite side, the Hezbollah. And the Hezbollah is also attacking this side, and most of the time, those rockets are coming near these area. And that's why, for the security of these peoples, the government has asked them to vacate these locations, go to some safe place, and the peoples are going out. There are very few peoples here. Most of them have already evacuated, but some of them who are here, they are going out, so that these places will be used by the armed personals. Right now, I am moving around this area, and I have found lots of army vehicles and the military posts. All these are deployed here, and at the same time, you can see this area where I am standing right now, and mostly these area are totally empty. No one is here. All the shops, markets are closed now, and the people who are here, they all are going out to find some safe places. So this is the location here where everyone is watching now.
The bloodiest war between Israel and Hamas terrorist group has been deteriorating with each passing day. The war became a nightmare for Gazans as Israel carried out a rampage in Gaza to wipe out Hamas. Meanwhile, residents of Khan Yunis recalled hardest night so far in the area after Israel's intense airstrikes at night. Palestinians are fleeing to the South Strip from North Gaza and are unfortunately finding no escape from danger. Right on your screens, there are visuals coming in from Gaza. People, of course, become a casualty every single time whenever there is any such war that takes place, be it between Ukraine and Russia and be it between now Israel and Hamas. Do remember that it was a war that was started by Hamas on the 7th of October after it launched a deadly attack against southern Israel and killed over 1,400 people, took over 200 people as hostages. And now Israel has vowed to retaliate and retaliate in a manner that the coming generation will remember for years and years to come. But in all of this, the people of Gaza are the ones who are devastated, who have been badly stuck. Now, the bloodiest war between Israel and Hamas terrorist group has been deteriorating with each passing day. Diplomatic solution looks far from happening, far from taking place. In fact, the war became a nightmare from Gazans as Israel carried out a rampage in Gaza to wipe out Hamas. Well, my colleague Manish Jha, who's currently in Israel, went to Tel Aviv to understand what exactly has been happening. What is it that the people of Tel Aviv are saying? Let's listen in.
मैं इस वक्त तेल अवीव में पहुंचा हूं एक बार ये देखने के लिए कि अब तेल अवीव आगे क्या करेगा, क्योंकि तेल अवीव के पास जहां आंतरिक और बाहरी दबाव है, वहीं तेल अवीव को एक डिसीजन लेना है कि डू एंड डाई की स्थिति में, और उन्होंने ले भी लिया है। और मेरे कैमरा सहयोगी अमित आपको आसपास की तस्वीरें भी दिखाएंगे। और साथ में मैं आपको बता दूं, एक तरफ जहां इजराइल की सरकार ने ये फैसला लिया है कि अब कोई युद्ध विराम नहीं होगा, हम अपना ग्राउंड ऑपरेशन जारी रहेंगे, लेकिन सबसे बड़ी बात ग्राउंड ऑपरेशन को लेकर ये दिक्कत आ रही है। और इस वक्त आप कैमरे पर देख रहे होंगे, देखिए यहाँ पर मौजूद पूरे शहर में अगर आप देखेंगे तो आपको 70 से 80% लोग जो हैं वो आपको सेना की वर्दी पहने हुए घूम रहे हैं। यानी पूरे शहर को ही, या कहें तो पूरे देश को ही सेना में तब्दील कर दिया गया है, ये हालत है यहाँ पर। लेकिन इन सब को इंतजार है ग्राउंड ऑपरेशन का। सवाल यह है कि ग्राउंड ऑपरेशन कब शुरू होगा। ग्राउंड ऑपरेशन को लेकर अमेरिका के रक्षा मंत्री ये कहते हैं कि अर्बन वॉरफेयर बहुत मुश्किल वाला चीज़ होता है, सो ऐसी स्थिति में हमें संभल कर चलना होगा। इजराइल के रक्षा मंत्री कहते हैं कि 3 महीने तक चलेगा ये ग्राउंड ऑपरेशन। तो ग्राउंड ऑपरेशन के नाम पर सारी तैयारियां तो हो रखी है, लेकिन इस बीच में सबसे बड़ी खबर ये है कि हमास ने ये ऐलान किया है कि हम फिर इजराइल पर सरप्राइज अटैक करेंगे। समय हम तय करेंगे, जगह हम तय करेंगे, लेकिन हमास एक बार फिर इजराइल पर सरप्राइज अटैक करने की तैयारी कर रहा है। ठीक वैसा ही अटैक जैसा इस वक्त हम वीडियो में दिखा रहे हैं कि कितना कत्लेआम मचाया है, कितना नरसंहार मचाया है, और इसी तरह के एक और अटैक की प्लानिंग कर रहा है हमास। ये इनपुट इजराइल को मिला है।
Now, doctors at a Gaza neonatal intensive care unit are scrambling to find fuel and basic medicines for their tiny patients who could die within minutes if their incubators lose power in the Palestinian enclave under Israeli siege. Ashraf Al-Qidra, spokesperson for the Gaza Health Ministry, said there were 130 newborn babies in electric incubators across the Gaza Strip. That's quite an unfortunate development coming in light. The doctors, they're trying their best to keep these babies alive, but of course facing several challenges amidst all of this. That's the Gaza's neonatal intensive care unit. The doctors, they're finding it difficult to find fuel and basic medicines for their tiny patients who could die within minutes if their incubators lose power in the Palestinian enclave, which is under Israeli siege. Babies in the intensive care unit are at high risk. The spokesperson for the Gaza Health Ministry, Ashraf Al-Qidra, has in fact given a number. He has said that 130 newborn babies are in electric incubators across the Gaza Strip, and they may unfortunately die at any moment, given the kind of hardships and challenges that the people of Gaza are facing. Their doctors trying their best to save these babies. Struggling with fuel and basic medicines for their tiny patients, who they believe could die within minutes if incubators lose power in the Palestinian enclave. The war was started by Hamas on the 7th of October after it launched a deadly attack on Israel, and ever since, Israel has vowed to retaliate and teach Hamas a befitting lesson. But amidst all of this, it is the people of Gaza who are bearing the brunt. Over 5,000 people have already lost their lives and more than 15,000 people are injured. Amidst all of this, the hospitals in Gaza are also running dangerously low on supplies. And amidst all of this, the doctors at a Gaza neonatal intensive care unit are now struggling to find fuel and basic medicines for their tiny patients who they believe could die within minutes if their incubators lose power. Japanese aid packages arrived at a school sheltering displaced Gazans in Khan Yunis after a third convoy of aid trucks entered through Rafah crossing from Egypt, bound for the besieged Gaza Strip. Humanitarian deliveries through Rafah began on Saturday after wrangling over procedures for inspecting the aid, and bombardments on the Gaza side of the border had left relief materials stranded in Egypt. Remember, Israel, in fact, allowed relief material to pass through the Rafah crossing on Saturday, but it also said that it will ensure that none of the relief material is taken over by Hamas terrorists. That was one of the biggest worries of the Israeli government. It has, in fact, now allowed third convoy of 8 trucks to enter through the Rafah crossing from Egypt. Now, these relief materials, the Gazans say, are nothing compared to what they need, but still they are thankful for the aid that they have been receiving from several countries through the Rafah crossing. India has also in fact sent aid to Gaza via the Rafah crossing, and Japanese aid, they're arriving at a school sheltering displaced Gazans in Khan Yunis after a third convoy of 8 trucks entered through Rafah crossing from Egypt, bound for the besieged Gaza Strip. There are several people who have lost their everything. Over 5,000 people have lost their lives. More than 15,000 people are injured. Humanitarian deliveries through Rafah started on Saturday after wrangling over procedures for inspecting the aid, and bombardments on the Gaza side of the border had left relief material stranded in Egypt. Do remember that it's only the relief material which is being allowed to pass through the Rafah crossing. There are no evacuations that are taking place as such. Their aid being distributed to displaced Gazans, to those in dire need in Khan Yunis. This is the aid that they received from Japan. The people of Gaza received from Japan. My colleague Sumit Chaudhary is also in Israel. He spoke to the Israeli military officers. Let's listen in what's their take on the ongoing war with Hamas.
We have with us Richard Hectic, and if I ask you, Richard, we have seen so many multiple things. We have seen the strategies which you have been developing. What is the situation right now?
The situation right now is that we are preparing for the future stages of this war. They unleashed this war on us. You saw it today. You saw the visuals. You understand why we are doing this. It's going to take a long time, and we're going to do it when the operational conditions are ready. We're striking Hamas targets from the air. We've asked the populations in the north of Gaza to move south. We've created a humanitarian zone in the south, and we're going after Hamas based on intelligence from the air.
And Richard, we have been looking at the multiple fronts have also opened, not only the Gaza. Hezbollah is also doing the same thing. We have seen multiple terrorist organizations are coming together against it. How do the idea of strategizing all those things?
So we've also ramped up our defences in the north, but again our focus is on the Gaza. What we're saying now to the Lebanese government and Hezbollah, do not sacrifice your future for the Hamas. If you come into this, the consequences will be very grave for them.
One thing more, I've been seeing multiple things. You have described us everything, the atrocities, everything you have described. Do you think that these terrorist organizations will come together, multiple terrorist organizations will come together and do something big against Israel?
We're looking at it. Yes, there's potential. We know they cooperate. Jihad cooperates with Hamas, Hezbollah. They're all talking to each other. We know this. But again, we are now focused, as I said before, on Hamas right now. They did this, and we are taking care and we're responding to Hezbollah's activity in the north.
We have been also hearing that the IDF is slow down their operations in Gaza. Is there anything on this, or
we have not slowed down anything? We are striking Hamas targets in Gaza, and we are planning our future stages.
And we can see all these things similar in the northern borders as well if something happens?
Well, northern borders is a different phenomena. Right now we're focusing on Gaza.
Anything new which you have added on in your operations?
No, well, again, it's north and south. You're seeing it. You're seeing also the American presence, which is theirs in the Med and also in the Red Sea. You saw that event from Yemen. It's challenging times, but we will overcome.
Over the past day, the Israeli Defense Forces has struck over 320 military targets in the Gaza Strip. IDF continued to strike terror infrastructure and military targets in the Gaza Strip. Following ISA and IDF intelligence, the terror targets struck included tunnels containing Hamas terrorists, dozens of operational command centers, some of which concealed Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists, military compounds and observation posts. Furthermore, the IDF struck targets that posed a threat to forces in the area surrounding the Gaza Strip who are preparing for ground operations, including dozens of mortar shells and anti-tank missile launch posts. Overnight, an IDF tank thwarted a number of terrorist cells, including an anti-tank missile cell. Right on your screens there, over the past day, the Israeli Defense Forces has struck over 320 military targets in the Gaza Strip. The IDF continues to strike terror infrastructure and military targets in the Gaza Strip after vowing to teach Hamas a befitting lesson for carrying out a deadly attack on southern Israel on the 7th of October. Israel's aim is, one, to eradicate Hamas. That's what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has stated. The terror targets struck includes tunnel containing Hamas terrorists, dozens of operational command centers, some of which concealed Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists, military compounds and observation posts. The Israeli Defense Forces have already killed several important people belonging to the Hamas terror organization, and here now it is continuing with its strikes. And in the latest, the terror targets struck include tunnels containing Hamas terrorists, dozens of operational command centers, some of which also concealed Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists. The IDF also struck targets that posed a threat to forces in the area surrounding the Gaza Strip who are preparing for ground invasion, including dozens of mortar shells and anti-tank missile launch posts. Freed Israeli women arrive at Tel Aviv hospital for a medical examination. Here's a full report. Now, fears from world powers that the conflict between Israel and Islamist terrorists in Gaza will spill into other countries may be turning into a reality. The United Nations says fighting between Israel forces and Hezbollah on the Lebanese border is displacing massive number of people. Here's a report.
These are fires blazing on the border between Israel and Lebanon over the weekend, the result of fighting between Israeli forces and Hezbollah. As the war between Israel and Islamist militants in Gaza continues, fears are growing that the conflict will spill over into other countries. The United Nations reported on Monday that almost 20,000 people have now been forced from their homes in Lebanon, most of them to escape the border fighting. The UN's International Organization for Migration says they started tracking the displacement on October 8th, a day after the devastating Hamas attacks on Israeli communities. Hezbollah is supporting Hamas in the war. Reuters recently found this woman in a school converted into a temporary shelter near the border. She's saying she couldn't find another place to stay. Even UN peacekeepers wouldn't take them in. She was in the middle of cooking when she fled, and her neighbor's house was destroyed. Israeli communities on the border have also been evacuating, with dozens of towns and villages ordered by the government to clear out. Hezbollah hasn't fully committed its forces to the war, and it's not clear if or when it may do so. As of Monday, it's reported to have lost over 24 fighters since October 7th. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that if Hezbollah did open up a second front to the conflict, that it would bring unimaginable devastation to Lebanon.
Hamas rockets attacks continue on Israel, prompting many in Sderot to evacuate. The southern city is home to about 30,000 people, but about 90% of its population has left. Sderot faced the brunt of the Hamas rocket fire. Once a thriving town, but now bearing a deserted look. Right on your screens, visuals coming in from Sderot, which seems to have become a ghost town. Hamas rocket attacks continued on Israel, prompting many in Sderot to evacuate. That's the city that's one of the cities, in fact, that's been badly stuck. And here, the southern city is home to about 30,000 people, but about 90% of its population has already left. Residents have decided to evacuate after several rocket attacks from Hamas. Even though Israel continues to pound Gaza, Hamas is also firing rockets on many Israeli cities, attempting in fact to deliver a blow to Israel. There now Hamas rocket attacks which continued on Israel prompted many in the Sderot city to evacuate. The southern city is home to about 30,000 people, but about 90% of its population has already left. Well, the AQI has dropped to a very poor category. According to IMD scientist Vikas Soni, the AQI levels in the national capital to remain under the very poor category till the 26th of October. However, after the implementation of graded response action plan, a slight improvement might be seen in the AQI levels. As on Tuesday morning, the AQI level has been recorded over 300. The overall air quality at the national capital on Monday morning was recorded in the very poor category, with the AQI at 306 against 302 recorded on Sunday afternoon. Not just in the national capital, AQI levels are also worsening in cities like Mumbai, as it was recorded in Mumbai on 127 on Monday morning. Talking about the national capital, the air quality in Delhi-NCR continues to deteriorate. According to IMD scientist Vikas Soni, the AQI levels in the national capital will remain under the very poor category till October 26. There is no respite for people of Delhi-NCR. In fact, on Monday morning, the overall air quality in the national capital was recorded in the very poor category with an air quality index of 306, up from 302 on Sunday. And today as well, the IMD scientist has stated that it will remain under very poor category till the 26th of October. The AQI levels, and Delhi's AQI is over 300 even today. It is being advised to not step out given the kind of air quality and in fact given the kind of air that we all are breathing, especially for the elderly. It is always advised to stay inside. It is always better for the elderly people to stay inside their houses and not move out given the kind of air quality that is being recorded with each passing day, and the fact that the AQI and the IMD scientist Vikas Soni has stated that Delhi will remain under very poor category till the 26th of October. Commuters, they're also facing tough time due to smog. On Sunday, the overall air quality was recorded at 266 in the poor category against 173 on Saturday. And on Monday, the air quality was reported at 306. And today also the AQI continues to remain above 300 and in a very poor category. And the IMD scientists, they're also saying that it will continue to remain the same till the 26th of October. It's not just Delhi, but AQI levels are also worsening in cities like Mumbai. My colleague Shalini Bajpai gets us the latest from the ground. Let's take a listen.
दिल्ली में प्रदूषण का स्तर धीरे धीरे बढ़ने लगा है। अगर मैं आज आपको तस्वीरें दिखाऊं इंडिया गेट से, तो आप देखेंगे आज भी धुंध छाई हुई है। आप देखिएगा इंडिया गेट पर धुंध छाई हुई है और ये जो धुंध की चादर ने दिल्ली को घेर रखा है। देखेंगे आप हर तरफ इसी तरह की धुंध, वो चाहे दिल्ली एनसीआर सभी जगहों पर है। अगर मैं आज की तापमान की बात करूं, तापमान भी लगभग 16-17 डिग्री सेल्सियस न्यूनतम तापमान हो चुका है और वहीं दूसरी तरफ प्रदूषण भी बढ़ता जा रहा है। अगर मैं आज के तापमान की बात करूं तो आज 17 डिग्री सेल्सियस न्यूनतम तापमान और 32 डिग्री सेल्सियस अधिकतम तापमान होने का अनुमान लगाया गया है। और पिछले दिनों की अगर बात करूं, कल परसों की, तो 16 डिग्री 15 डिग्री तक न्यूनतम तापमान पहुंच गया था। तो आज लगातार कहेंगे कि तापमान घट रहा है और दूसरी तरफ प्रदूषण बढ़ रहा है। तो अगर आप सुबह बाहर निकलते हैं तो सावधानी बरतें। इस पर मैं सफर इंडिया एयर क्वालिटी सर्विस जो देता है उस पर देखती हूँ आज दिल्ली ओवरऑल क्या दिखा रहा है। तो देखिए 303 देखिएगा AQI है, 303 और ये वेरी पुअर कैटेगरी में आता है। कल 306 था और आज 303। प्रेडिक्शन का अगर मैं देखूं कि और कल क्या हो सकता है, तो आप देखेंगे 313 कल का आप देख रहे होंगे, ये प्रेडिक्शन है। कल 313 होने का अनुमान लगाया गया है। यही बता दूं कि मौसम विभाग का ये भी कहना है कि अगले एक हफ्ते में AQI बहुत तेजी से बढ़ेगा। दिवाली तक तो हाल और ख़राब हो सकते हैं। अभी तो कल दशहरा है और आज आप देख रहे हैं उसके बावजूद 303 अभी से AQI पहुंच गया है वेरी पुअर कैटेगरी में। ऐसे में डॉक्टर्स बार बार कह रहे हैं कि सावधानी बरतें। दिल्ली के तमाम ऐसे इलाके हैं जहां AQI और भी खराब है। अगर मैं यही आपको बताती हूँ एयरपोर्ट की क्या स्थिति है, तो देखेंगे 313 एयरपोर्ट पर है AQI, 313 बता रहा है। और इसके अलावा अगर मैं देखूंगी कि धीरपुर का AQI कितना है, तो देखेंगे 327। धीरपुर का 327 AQI है। मतलब बाकी के जो कुछ इलाके हैं जो वहाँ की हालात और भी खराब हैं। प्रदूषण का स्तर लगातार बढ़ रहा है। नोएडा की अगर बात करूँ, दिल्ली NCR का अगर बात करें तो नोएडा में देखिए 308 AQI है, 308 है। और गुरुग्राम में जो है वो आप देखेंगे, ये मैं आपको सफर इंडिया जो एयर क्वालिटी सर्विस जो देता है वो देखिएगा 249 गुरुग्राम में है। तो गुरुग्राम की स्थिति थोड़ा सा नोएडा से बेहतर है दिल्ली के, लेकिन जो बाकी के इलाके हैं उनके हालात बहुत ख़राब हैं। प्रदूषण का स्तर लगातार बढ़ रहा है। 330, 340 कई इलाकों में तो 350 के पार भी चला गया। इसीलिए लगातार ये सरकार भी बोल रही है कि आप सावधानी बरतें सुबह शाम जहाँ तक हो, क्योंकि सुबह जो है वो पोल्यूशन बहुत ज़्यादा होता है, इसलिए मॉर्निंग वॉक करने वालों के लिए खास तौर पर ध्यान देने के लिए बोला गया है। सेहत का ध्यान रखें, जिनको पहले से ही सांस संबंधी बीमारियां हैं वो लोग तो बिल्कुल भी सुबह को टहलने के लिए बाहर ना जाएं, एक्सरसाइज करने बाहर ना जाएं, और डॉक्टर्स भी सावधानी बरतने की बात कह रहे हैं।
Now, at least 20 people were killed and several others injured when a freight train hit a passenger train in Bangladesh's northeastern Kishoreganj district. The accident took place when the freight train headed towards Chattogram hit the rear coaches of the Dhaka-bound train around 3:30 p.m. in Behrab area of Kishoreganj district, some 60 kilometers of the capital Dhaka. Twenty people have lost their lives in this tragic incident and many others are believed to have been injured. Now, this accident happened after a freight train hit a passenger train in Bangladesh's northeastern Kishoreganj district. An Alaska Airlines flight bound for San Francisco was diverted to Portland on Sunday after an off-duty pilot inside the flight deck attempted to disable the aircraft engines. Take a look at this report.
An off-duty pilot who attempted to disable the engines of an Alaska Airlines flight in mid-air has been charged with 83 counts of attempted murder and endangering an airplane. That's according to authorities, who say 44-year-old Joseph David Emerson was sitting in a jump seat in the cockpit of a plane bound for San Francisco Sunday when it was diverted to Portland, Oregon after he tried to shut the engines down. The Federal Aviation Administration told airlines in a notice seen by Reuters the man tried unsuccessfully to disable the engines by deploying the fire suppression system. It added that the crew was able to subdue him and remove him from the flight deck. Once the plane landed in Portland, the suspect was taken into custody without incident. An FAA pilot database shows Emerson is listed as a certified pilot who received a medical clearance last month. The FAA told airlines in a separate notice on Monday the incident, quote, is not connected in any way, shape, or form to current world events, but said it is, quote, always good practice to maintain vigilance.
A 16-year-old Iranian girl who fell into coma earlier this month following an alleged encounter with officers over violating the country's hijab law is said to be brain dead. Iranian state media reported on Sunday. Let's look at the full report.
Iranian state media on Sunday reported a teenage girl is brain dead after an alleged encounter with officers earlier this month over violating the country's hijab law. CCTV footage from Tehran's metro on October 1st shows an unconscious person being dragged out from the cabin. Iran has denied that 16-year-old Armida Garavan was hurt after a confrontation with officers enforcing the mandatory Islamic dress code. Rights groups have been concerned that Garavan might face the same fate as Mahsa Amini, whose death last September in the custody of morality police sparked nationwide anti-government protests. Two journalists were handed long prison sentences on Sunday by an Iranian revolutionary court over their coverage of Amini's death, according to state media. Nilufar Hamidi and Elaha Mohammadi were sentenced to 13 and 12 years in prison, respectively. Their charges included collaboration with the U.S. government and acting against national security. Lawyers for the two journalists have rejected the charges.
The members of Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, the RSS, organized a Path Sanchalan or route march in Nagpur on Vijay Dashmi Utsav. This event saw the participation of RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat. The event also saw the participation of Union Minister Nitin Gadkari and Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. Right on your screens, visuals of RSS celebrating the Vijay Dashmi Utsav, where various members of Rashtriya Swayam Sevak were seen taking part in an event which is being called Path Sanchalan or Route March in Nagpur. Famous singer Shankar Mahadevan also a part of the festivities. Apart from RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat, Well, this event also saw the participation of Union Minister Nitin Gadkari and Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. Well, that's all we have in this edition of the Bulletin for you all. Thank you very much for joining in. A very happy Dussehra to all of you. It's me, Neha, signing off.
They picked my husband. He was tortured there for 2 years. He was enforced disappeared. We had no idea where he is. Within 15 minutes, we got the information that the whole area is surrounded by Pakistan Army. I came out from that